Hello.
Hi, everybody. I don't know how Prabal and I landed the worst slot when everyone gets to eat and we get to watch you. That chicken tikka is looking really good right now.
Is there a chicken tikka there?
Is it chicken tikka? What is it? Chicken something. What is it? No. Chili roast chicken. That sounds good. That sounds good. Anyway, Prabal. This is the man of the moment, guys. Like, this guy, I mean, look at him. Look at him. He's definitely the man of the moment. Prabal, we're so excited about your new novel.
Thank you.
Your memoir. And I wanted to start by asking you about the title. Now, I know all the answers to all the questions I'm going to ask you because I've read the book. But I know you guys don't, so this is going to be new to you. But you guys are so lucky. You have the book in the bag that you have with you. And please give Prabal a round of applause. I would just like to say that I've been plowing through this book for the last 3 days, and it's such an easy read because it's such a great story, and it's amazing, and it moves really fast, and it's, honestly, it's like from heartbreak to hope. That's the way I would describe it. But the hope is so hopeful that I hope that it will just inspire you guys in the way that it's been inspiring me. But anyway, enough about what I think. Let's talk about what you think. So, Prabal, tell us about why you came up with this title.
Before I start, good evening, everyone. And it is really wonderful to see this room, look at the room, and it really reflects back to who you see yourself. So it's really incredible to see our people celebrating each other. So, and thank you everyone for having us here. To answer your question, first of all, whenever I'm holding a mic, I feel like I'm going to start singing. So,
Well, Chandrika can help.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so, all right, so on to your question. Walk like a girl is a term used pejoratively, often to diminish or demean someone and their existence oftentimes. I decided that was a term that was thrown at me growing up because I was an extremely effeminate kid who didn't fit into the narrow, I would say, description of what a boy or what a man should look like. And I was free, but somehow in that freedom of me being myself, the society didn't understand. For me, walk like a girl when it was thrown at me, I just didn't understand it was an insult because I was surrounded by powerful women, whether it was my mother, whether it was my sister, even my superhero was Wonder Woman, and Charlie's Angel. So I never saw anything wrong in being who I was and emulating the women and the feminine power and the matriarchal power that we grew up with. But when I went to school, I understood the intention behind it and the impact and mostly the hate towards it. And so over the period of time, I've taken that term and turned it around and used it as a term for empowerment, courage, grace, and defiance. So walk like a girl is to walk through the world with softness, defiance, courage, and vulnerability, and this unapologetic joy, and to say that I belong here, that I claim my space, I belong here. This is for me. This is for you, and I wrote this book to celebrate femininity in all its form. Not to rise above, but to rise with. And I feel that's how I've lived my life, and hence this long-winded answer to your question. So, yeah.
I love it. So, thank you, guys. So, not that you were clapping for me, but, I was thanking you on his behalf. Prabal, when...
No, don't. This is so typical of us, You can't. I do want to take a moment.
But they weren't clapping for me.
No, they were. No.
But I thanked them.
No, but the thing is, thank you very much.
I love you.
Thank you. I think it's very important to acknowledge, especially in our community, our women and the work that you guys do, that you have been doing. And so for me, to be able to sit with a dear friend of mine who's been an inspiration from afar and so near, the things that you've built in a predominantly patriarchal world. So let's give a round of applause to Anjula, please. She's been a force of nature. Yeah. So you deserve all the flowers as well. Yeah.
Well, my next question to you was, when was that moment that you really fell in love with woman? And I'm not going to say women, I'm going to say woman. Because I feel like your life journey has been in honor of the woman. So when was that moment where you fell in love with woman?
I think my first love was with my mother, like just watching her raise us single-handedly, unapologetically unbowed was my first lesson in resilience. Just watching her walk through the world with such power was lesson in elegance. Watching her, I understood that elegance is not a posture, it's a practice. And that love, and I would say in its full form and it's based on truth, is the most radical thing you can have. So I would say, no, it's okay. People, I think everyone's hungry. You should eat.
Everyone's
Everyone's hungry. So
hungry.
we get it. We're just going to keep
We're
on chatting.
smelling it, and we wish we were eating
Yeah.
it.
So I would say that my first love was that, and then my sister, then the films that I saw, the writers that I loved, whether it was Jane Austen or Louisa May Alcott, and I grew up reading those, and I loved. I've always believed in this matriarchal and feminine power simply because in this brute patriarchal world that has brought us to this mess right now, the only hope we have is matriarchy. That's I've always believed that, So yeah. So
Yes, preach, Prabal.
No, it is. It's really is that because patriarchy is very self-centered, power at any cost. Matriarchy and feminine idea is more community-driven, collaborative. So I'm all for that.
I love this one quote in the book that your mum, who was an entrepreneur and a businesswoman, and I found this so inspiring. It was like, you basically have to have wood in many different fires. And this really spoke to me as a businesswoman because as a businesswoman, I've had to pivot my business and I've been, through so many different lives as different entrepreneurs. So tell us about that. I mean, like, in your business, you've had to pivot, you've had to reinvent yourself, you've had to change. So talk to me about the flexibility that you learned from your mom.
Yeah. Another reason for me and in my true respect and reverence for matriarchal power is the agility and the ability to multitask that women predominantly, whether they're predisposed or they're because of circumstances, they have to do it. And I've watched that like growing up, and I admire that. I don't necessarily have that, but I had to learn through it. And I think a lot of times, we take on different hats, different let's say responsibility, and put like a lot of things on fires because we don't have the luxury of being a white person. Okay, where we can just do one thing and you're somehow rewarded for just showing up. We have to do the work. We have to show up and not only do the work, do multiple works that all of a sudden the people look at us and be like, what? Okay, they are here. So there's no bitterness to it. There's no nothing, but that's a fact and the reality. And sooner we realize that, better. And I will say this. I keep on talking about women and feminine power and matriarchy, and women have it harder. And especially as brown women, it's even harder. So I know that about it. And in a country which seems to be awoke right now, conversation around race is very binary in America. Oftentimes the nuances around it is lost. So are our stories. So as our existence. Our struggle and our fight and our in the survival also is completely taken for granted. So I would say, what was the question?
I've forgotten. We were talking about pivoting and businesswomen. What's that?
Should we let them eat?
Yeah, should we let you guys eat?
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's a lot of noise and it's super distracting. So just being really honest up here. Oh gosh, that worked.
We'll keep it short. Let's just keep it short.
Okay, well, look, some of my final questions is really about, being an entrepreneur in America as an immigrant. What was that experience like?
Lonely, more often than not. And that's something that we don't really talk about is, journey of self-discovery, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're working for someone, is for an immigrant is often a lonely process. And there's a sense of unbelonging that happens, and we're constantly looking for community. And I do want to address, like in what the world sees when they see my life is really bold and beautiful, but most of the joys are very hard earned. And it's true for all of us, So I don't want to paint this picture that, I worked hard and I made it, I'm living the American dream. American dream is fractured. American dream is so complicated and complex. So I don't want anyone to walk away from here or listening to any one of us in this podium, hear our story and think, oh, I just have to do X, Y, Z and it'll happen to me. The process is long and arduous, and I do want to address this mental health like the issues that is attached to it, the trauma that we go through, the trauma that our brown skin, the trauma like existing as a brown person, existing as a non-white person in a predominantly white world with a colonial lens and colonial idea is insanely traumatic. So I think it's important for us to sometimes not be successful. I think it's important for us to be, fail. Because I always say, white people are allowed so much mediocrity that sometimes we should be allowed to breathe as well. And that's extremely important. So I think sometimes, in the process of uplifting ourselves and our community, we talk about we celebrate the success. I think it is very important that we celebrate the process. A lot of people who are in the sidelines, and a lot of stories about failures, because when you talk about failures and the stories around that, as well as success, what it does is it humanizes us. People start to see us as not a monolithic idea, but human beings, that we matter, our existence matters. So I think it's extremely important that we do that, because our generation before us, our mothers, they always say, put your head down, do the work. And I always have this conversation with my mothers, the reason that I'm able to be where I am, because she allowed me to talk about my own pain, my own anxiety, my own, nervousness, my thing about my worries. And she's always said to me, when you find success, if you're this euphoric about it, you're going to be that depressed about your failures. So find a middle ground. And so that's what it is.
That's so true. And I think that we live in a world of such highs and lows.
Of course.
And then the other thing is just what's on Instagram isn't real, but you see everyone's successes because nobody's putting their failures on Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, very few people are. But Prabal, I want to shift gears for a second because there was something that you did that was so exciting. The last Met Gala, you've been dressing... Yes, the last Met Gala. You've been dressing celebrities for such a long time. We're used to that. But we are not used to seeing a Sikh turban man called Diljit Dosanjh, couldn't get the words out, wearing Prabal Gurung.
Yeah.
This was such an epic moment for so many people, for representation, for people to be seen, for people to feel like they belong. It meant so many things to so many people, but tell us about that experience, because it was epic. And by the way, I'd just like to say, I think there was a Vogue vote about the best dressed person, and I think Diljit won it, which was amazing, thanks to Prabal.
I would like to sit here. Is everything okay?
They told me that everyone wants to eat.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's fine. You guys should
Didn't
eat.
say that.
No. Okay, so
we want to know about Diljit,
okay,
right?
yeah.
We want to know about Diljit. Yes, they want to know about Diljit.
Okay, so Diljit, I have to start. That particular experience is one of the most humbling and gratifying experience of my entire career. I've been a huge fan of him. Oftentimes, watching him from afar, watching his performance as an actor, as a singer, performer, it's really inspiring that he is so unapologetically himself. There's no, catering to anyone or anything. He just truly believes in what he is and who he is. And that is the kind of power that we all want. That is, and so I was always inspired by him. So I have my brother who lives in Mumbai, and And my sister lives in Kathmandu, and we talk every morning. And because I'd taken Deepika earlier, like Alia, and then we were talking about who should it be, and then Diljit's name came up, simply because of that. I feel like he's a self-made man based on his talent and his grit and his tenacity. So when he said yes, it was, for me, there were two things. I don't know if a lot of people understand Hindi. I was like, marna nahi hai, marwana nahi hai. That's what I said.
I don't know what that means.
Okay,
What
anyway,
does that mean?
I'm not going to explain. Whoever gets it. So basically, I had not only the country, the continent to represent, and I felt that responsibility, and I really extremely felt honored. So when we went back and forth about conversation, I always ask everyone, I never tell them you should wear this. I always say, what do you want to feel like? What do you want to represent? What do you want to feel? Sometimes it can be just me, I want to look fabulous, I want to look like, have fun. But he was so clear in his intention about everything that he wanted to do. He was like, he said, Pachi, I was like, like, what is it that you want to do? And he was like, very much, this is what I want to do. This is the first time that I'm going there, and I wanted, we had a long chat and conversation about it. My job was simply to honor who he was, his heritage. He wanted to represent his people. He wanted to represent India, the country and the continent, and what an honor. And the thing was, initially I was worried, will people know him? Typical, an imposter syndrome. Even I have it. And everyone knew who he was. And the conversation between him and Shakira was like, oh, I love your music. And we're in the bus, and Shakira is being stitched in her dress. And, and I'm like, that's my job. The most gratifying thing about my job is not the spotlight on me, because I don't necessarily like that. It's the fact that I'm able to dress people, create a table that looks like my personal dinner table, which is colorful and filled with different shapes and sizes of people, and then coming together and hopefully collaborating. And then to see, I remember going to Met Gala, I've been going for a couple of years now, and how it was, you would walk into the room and you'd clock few people of color, and then to walk into that room, this Met Gala, and to see filled with all these colorful, different people, in different walks of life, and then to see people from our part of the world, to see there Priyanka, Diljit, Kiara, everyone, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, my goodness. I had never thought it would happen in my lifetime, and it is happening. And, then to see Diljit's humility, that was the thing about it. He was sitting there, and I said, let me just take you around, let me introduce. And I said, no, I'm okay, And then I said, no, let me take you. So I introduced him to a few people. And the humility. What was really amazing reminder for me was, Met Gala can be daunting. It can be, sometimes people are fronting, To see a man in his full glory, so humble, reminded me of my own roots, reminded of who we all are. In the process of discovering and making name in ourselves in this new country, new home, one thing that really makes us who we are is the grace, the reverence, the respect, the culture that has been stolen and borrowed from us. Now finally we're able to claim it, and to be in that power, full power, was the most humbling and the most gratifying thing I've ever done in my life. So really.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Give it up, everyone, for Prabal Gurung.
Yeah. Thank you.
Be bold and walk like a girl.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.